TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. U.S. Central Command launches over 100 strikes, eliminating dozens of Houthi leaders and further degrading the terror group's military capabilities in Yemen. The Israel Air Force strikes at Hezbollah targets in Southern Lebanon and Beirut after 2 projectiles were launched toward Israel's northern communities. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledges to escalate the war on anti-Semitism. The Islamic Republic of Iran marked its annual Quds Day in reference to Jerusalem, during the course of which participants called for the annihilation of the State of Israel and the United States of America. Despite being brought to their knees with the Ayatollah regime's own defenses largely destroyed and their regional proxies heavily battered, regime supporters nonetheless are convinced that the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps maintains the upper hand, with messages of hostile intent broadly cited amid a pledge by the United States and Israel that the Islamic Republic would not attain nuclear weapon capabilities.
They can't do a damn thing. Even if they want to attack, we'll slap them hard in the mouth, and Allah willing, if they even land a slap or make a move, according to the Supreme Leader's words, the era of hit and run is over. If they hit once, they'll get 10 back, Allah willing.
From the first day you started threatening, you couldn't carry out even one of them, and until the end, you will not dare to act on any of your threats. Our brave Revolutionary Guard soldiers are fully prepared to completely destroy all your bases in the Middle East and all your ships and aircraft carriers, wiping them out entirely.
It is important to know that the situation in Iran is becoming increasingly harder, with the Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign already forcing Iran's national currency, the rial, to consecutive record lows. However, according to Iranian citizens, the main reason for the Iranian currency's rapid decline relates to circulating chatter about prospects of a wide-scale war between the United States and Israel versus Iran.
These whispers of war caused the dollar rate to rise. And if the slightest thing happens, the dollar will go even higher.
I think it is very unlikely that there will be a war with the policies they have. But if they talk about war, this same conversation will cause the dollar to increase in price the next day.
Meanwhile, in Yemen, the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe, announced that in light of the American campaign against its efforts to thwart freedom of navigation in the strategic Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and adjacent waterways, they intend to gradually escalate their attacks against maritime shipping and the State of Israel.
The Yemen armed forces affirm that American aggression will only strengthen the resolve and resilience of the Yemeni people. The confrontations over the past days are merely the beginning of a gradual expansion of defensive operations in the coming days, and the enemy will witness more of the strength and determination of Yemen's steadfast and unyielding people. We will continue to prevent Israeli navigation in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, and we remain committed to supporting our resilient and oppressed brothers in Gaza until the aggression against them ceases and the siege is lifted.
Following this blatant announcement, U.S. Central Command launched its most robust aerial strikes to date, destroying over 100 targets and eliminating at least 58 of the Houthi leadership. Among others, the brother of the tribal leader of the Houthis, called Abd al-Halq al-Houthi, was initially rushed to an undisclosed medical facility after sustaining severe wounds. However, shortly thereafter, Houthi sources have confirmed that Abd al-Halq al-Houthi had succumbed to his wounds. Turning to Israel's northern front, where rocket alert sirens sounded in the area of Margaliot, Kiryat Shmona, and Misgav Am at 7:50 this morning, when 2 projectiles were launched from Lebanese territory toward Israel's northern communities. One projectile that crossed into Israeli airspace was immediately intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system, while a second projectile fell in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Quds immediately responded to the launches in a statement that read, quote, "The fate of Kiryat Shmona will be the same fate of Beirut. If there is no peace in Kiryat Shmona and the Galilee communities, there will be no peace in Beirut either." Jerusalem's top defense official continued by stressing that the Lebanese government bears direct responsibility for every shot fired at the Galilee and pledged to act forcefully against any threat. Subsequently, in line with the defense minister's pledge, the Israel Air Force had initially launched dozens of strikes against Hezbollah terror targets in southern Lebanon, and after the IDF spokesperson's unit released an early warning to Lebanese residents of the Dahya neighborhood of Beirut to stay clear from a building in the heart of the Hezbollah stronghold, Israeli fighter aircraft struck the installation, which stored Hezbollah munitions and unmanned aerial vehicles, causing significant secondary explosions.
As I said, the fate of Kiryat Shmona will be the same fate of Beirut. If there is no peace in Kiryat Shmona and the Galilee communities, there will be no peace in Beirut. For any attempt to harm the Galilee communities, the roofs of the houses in the Diyah district and Beirut will tremble. I am sending a clear message from here to the Lebanese government. If you do not enforce the ceasefire agreement, we will enforce it. We promised peace and security to the residents of the Galilee, and so it will be.
Turning to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking at an international event on combating anti-Semitism, pushed back at a notion that merely a few foresaw the horrors of the Holocaust during the years that preceded World War II.
After the Holocaust, it was often said that few, if any, foresaw its horrors. This is patently not true. Herzl saw it at the turn of the 20th century. He wrote more than 30 times about the impending destruction of European Jewry. He wrote, and I quote, "The stone is rolling down the mountain slope to the bottom, the absolute bottom. Will there be devastation? Will there be confiscation? Will they expel us? Will they murder us? I anticipate all these things and more." Jabotinsky, a student of Herzl, saw this clearly. In 1938, he stood in Warsaw and issued a final desperate call to his fellow Jews. He said, "You are blind, you do not see, but those who do see, save yourselves. Leave now."
The Israeli premier went on to assert that the fate of free societies is tied to their willingness to fight the scourge of anti-Semitism.
Perhaps the history of the 20th century and the fate of multitudes, including 6 million Jews, would have been different if more had paid heed to such warnings at the time. Today we issue a similar warning. The fate of free societies is tied to their willingness to fight the scourge of anti-Semitism. For anti-Semitism legitimizes and unleashes wanton violence against a part of human society just because of the identity of its members. Not because of anything they do, but because of who they are. And once this principle is practiced on one group, it has no limits.
Prime Minister Netanyahu went on to highlight that while Hamas and its like are as bad as the Nazis, in contrast to the Holocaust, today the Jewish people have a state and a military that can defend itself. And while Israel and its leadership was caught by surprise on October 7th of 2023, Israel has forced its enemies to their knees.
On October 7th, we were surprised. We had a terrible, terrible massacre. and many believed that Israel was on the verge of extinction. Nasrallah put it very clearly. He said the Jewish state, the Jewish army, that's no more than a spider's web, and it could be easily swept aside. Well, a year and a half later, Nasrallah is gone, Haniya is gone, Sinwar is gone, Def is gone, and Assad is gone. We have battered Hamas. We have brought Hezbollah to its knees. We destroyed the remnants of Syria's army. We hit the Houthis with the great help of our American allies. And we exposed Iran's vulnerability. We have changed, we are changing the face of the Middle East. We are giving it a new future. Yet as we win the war against the forces of anti-Semitism in the Middle East, the fires of anti-Semitism rage in the heart of Western civilization.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to thank TV7's family of viewers who are instrumental in proactively backing TV7 Israel's continuity of productions. Praying for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel, I'm Jonathan Hessen wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach. God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.